The stars were dying one by one. Captain Jake Martinez stood on the bridge of the USS Liberty, watching the latest reports come in from across the galaxy. Another star system had gone dark. Another species had fallen to the Zephyrian Armada. "Sir, we just lost contact with the Altarian homeworld," said Lieutenant Amy Brooks from her station. Her voice was steady, but Jake could see the worry in her eyes. "That makes 17 systems in 10 years. Jake nodded slowly. He had been expecting this news, but it still hit him hard. The Altarians were peaceful people who loved art and music. They had never hurt anyone. Now they were gone, just like all the others. The Zephyrian Armada was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Their ships were not built like normal spaceships. They were grown like living things. The aliens had found a way to mix biology with technology, creating warships that could heal themselves and adapt to any attack. Every species that faced them had the same story. The Zephyrians would arrive in a star system with their massive fleet. They would destroy one planet as a warning. Then they would demand surrender. Every time, the defenders would give up after seeing what the aliens could do. "Chief Sullivan report," Jake called to his engineering officer. Pete Sullivan looked up from his console. "The Liberty is running at full power, Captain. All weapons are ready. But sir, if the reports are true about these Zephyrian ships, I know," Jake said. "Their shields adapt to whatever hits them. Their hulls repair themselves. And they travel in fleets of hundreds." The bridge fell quiet. Everyone knew what that meant. The Liberty was just one ship with 800 crew members. How could they fight an entire armada that had never lost a battle? "Sir," said Communications Officer Lisa Garcia, "we're getting an emergency transmission from Earth Command." "Put it on screen." Admiral Robert Kane appeared on the main viewer. His face was grim. "Captain Martinez, the Zephyrian Armada has been spotted moving toward human space. They'll reach the Centauri colonies in 3 days." Jake felt his stomach drop. The Centauri colonies were home to 2 million people. Families, children, scientists, farmers. All innocent people who had never done anything wrong. "What are our orders, sir?" Jake asked. "Earth Command is preparing evacuation ships," the Admiral sighed. "Your orders are to escort the civilian transports away from Centauri. Do not engage the enemy fleet. Repeat, do not engage." Jake stared at the screen. "Sir, with respect, if we run now, where does it end? The Zephyrians won't stop with Centauri. They'll keep coming until they reach Earth itself." "Captain, you have your orders. The Zephyrian Armada has over 300 ships. You have one. This is not a battle you can win." The transmission ended, leading the bridge in silence. Jake looked around at his crew. These were good people. Amy Brooks had been with him for 5 years. She was smart and brave, and she had never backed down from a fight. Pete Sullivan could fix anything and make it work better than before. Lisa Garcia could hack into any computer system in the galaxy. Danny Clark was the best weapons officer in the fleet. They were more than just his crew. They were family. "Captain," Amy said quietly, "the Centauri colonies sent us a message too. Show me." A new face appeared on screen. It was Governor Helen Davis from Centauri Prime. Behind her, Jake could see people packing their belongings, preparing to leave their homes. "Captain Martinez, I know Earth Command has ordered you to help with the evacuation, and I'm grateful for that. But I want you to know something. My daughter was born here. This is her home. This is home to 2 million people who built something beautiful on these worlds." The governor paused, and Jake could see tears in her eyes. "I understand if you have to follow orders. But if there's any way, any chance at all that you could help us fight for our home we would be grateful. These people deserve better than to run from their own planets." The transmission ended. Jake closed his eyes for a moment. When he opened them, he looked at each member of his crew. I'm going to ask you all something, and I want honest answers. Earth Command has ordered us to run, but 2 million people are asking us to fight. The Zephyrian Armada has never been stopped. They have more ships, better technology, and they've conquered every species they've faced. He paused. But we're human, and humans don't abandon their friends. The question is, are you willing to stand and fight, even if the odds are against us? Amy was the first to speak. I'm with you, Captain. These aliens think they can just take whatever they want. Someone needs to show them they're wrong. Pete nodded. My grandfather fought in the Earth Wars. He always said that sometimes you have to make a stand, even when it looks hopeless. One by one, every crew member on the bridge agreed. They would stay. They would fight. Jake smiled for the first time in days. Then let's go save Centauri. And let's show this Zephyrian Armada what humans are made of. The USS Liberty changed course, heading straight toward the Centauri system. Behind them, Earth Command was sending angry messages, ordering them to return. But Jake had made his choice. In 3 days, the most powerful fleet in galactic history would arrive at Centauri. They would find one human battleship waiting for them. The Zephyrians had conquered 17 star systems. They had never faced defeat, but they had never faced humans before. The Zephyrian Armada dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Centauri system. 300 warships appeared in space, like a dark cloud blocking out the stars. Admiral Kekstar stood in the command center of his flagship. Tall, thin body was covered in the same biomechanical armor that protected all Zephyrian warriors. Tubes connected his brain directly to his ship's computer, letting him control the entire fleet with his thoughts. Report, he commanded, his voice like the sound of metal scraping against stone. Sir, the system contains 3 inhabited planets with approximately 2 million beings, his tactical officer replied. We detect one defending vessel. Kekstar's 4 eyes blinked slowly. One ship? What class? Unknown design, sir. It appears to be from the species that calls itself human. The ship is much smaller than our vessels. A sound like laughter came from Kekstar's throat. In 10 years of conquest, no species had ever tried to fight them with just one ship. Most races sent their entire fleets, which he would destroy in minutes. This was almost insulting. Perhaps the humans are braver than other species, he said. Or perhaps they are simply more foolish. Meanwhile, on the USS Liberty, Captain Jake Martinez watched the massive alien fleet appear on his sensors. The Zephyrian ships were enormous, each 1-3 times the size of his battleship. They looked like giant insects made of metal and flesh, with long spines jutting out from their hulls. Dear God, whispered Lisa Garcia from her communications station. There are so many of them. Stay calm, Jake said, though his own heart was racing. Amy, what can you tell me about their formation? Lieutenant Amy Brooks studied her tactical display. They're moving in a perfect pattern, sir. Every ship is exactly the same distance from the others. It's like they're all connected. Somehow. That's because they are, said Pete Sullivan from engineering. I'm picking up bioelectrical signals between their ships. They're sharing information directly, brain to brain. Jake nodded. That explained how the Zephyrians could coordinate such large fleets so perfectly. But it might also be a weakness. Sir, Lisa said, we're receiving a transmission from the alien flagship. Put it on screen. Admiral Kekstar's face appeared on the main viewer. His alien features were sharp and cruel, and his eyes glowed with a cold light. I am Admiral Kekstar of the Zephyrian Armada. You will surrender immediately, or we will destroy every world in this system. You have one of your time units to decide. The transmission ended. Jake looked around his bridge. His crew was scared, but they were still at their posts. None of them had run. Options? He asked. We could call for backup, Danny Clark suggested from the weapons station. Maybe Earth Command will send more ships. The nearest fleet is 6 days away, Amy said. By then, it'll be too late. We could surrender, Pete said quietly. Maybe try to negotiate for the colonists. The Zephyrians don't negotiate, Jake replied. Every species that surrendered to them was either enslaved or wiped out. He stood up from his captain's chair and walked to the front of the bridge. Outside the windows, he could see the alien fleet getting closer. 30 years ago, my father told me something, Jake said. He said that sometimes, when you're facing something bigger and stronger than you, the only way to win is to do something they don't expect. He turned back to his crew. The Zephyrians have conquered 17 star systems. They've never lost a battle. They expect us to either run away or surrender. But we're going to do something different. What's that, sir? Amy asked. Jake smiled. We're going to attack them. The bridge fell silent. Everyone stared at him like he had lost his mind. Sir, Pete said carefully, they have 300 ships. We have one. That's right. And that's exactly why they won't see it coming. Jake returned to his chair. Amy, I want you to plot a course straight through the center of their formation. Danny, prepare all weapons. Lisa, monitor their communications. Pete, give me everything the engines have got. Sir, Lisa said, the Zephyrians are transmitting again. Ignore them. We're done talking. On the Zephyrian flagship, Admiral Kextar watched as the human ship turned toward his fleet. Sir, the human vessel is approaching, his tactical officer reported. They appear to be on an attack vector. Kextar made the sound that passed for laughter among his people. Foolish creatures. They think one ship can challenge the might of the Armada. Very well. We will make an example of them that the rest of the galaxy will remember. He sent a mental command through his biolink to the fleet. All ships, prepare standard intimidation bombardment. Target the human vessel's weapons and engines. We will disable them and then broadcast their surrender to their colonies. The Zephyrian ships began to move into attack formation. Their movements were perfect, like a dance that had been practiced 1,000 times. Every ship knew exactly where to go and when to fire. But as the Liberty came closer, something strange happened. The human ship didn't slow down. It didn't try to turn away. Instead, it accelerated, heading straight for the gap between 2 of the largest Zephyrian vessels. Sir, the tactical officer said, the humans are not following standard combat procedures. They should be trying to maintain distance for long-range combat. Kextar's eyes narrowed. Perhaps their weapons are different from others we have faced. No matter, when we disable their ship, we will learn all their secrets. On the Liberty, Jake gripped his chair as the ship shook under the force of its engines running at maximum power. Distance to the enemy fleet? He called out. 2 minutes. To contact, Amy reported. Sir, their ships are charging weapons. Let them, Jake said. Lisa, are you monitoring their battle communications? Yes, sir. They're coordinating for something called an intimidation bombardment. It sounds like they're planning to disable. US, not destroy us. Jake grinned. Perfect. That means they'll be holding back. Benny, wait for my command to return fire. When I give the word, I want you to target the ships on our flanks, not the ones in front of us. Sir, that doesn't make tactical sense, Danny said. The ships in front are the biggest threat. Trust me, Jake said. We're about to teach these aliens that humans don't fight like everyone else. The Liberty raced toward the Zephyrian fleet, like a bullet fired at a wall. Behind them, the 3 worlds of the Centauri system watched and waited. In 60 seconds, the galaxy would learn whether the Zephyrian Armada was truly unstoppable. The first Zephyrian weapons fired exactly as Jake had predicted. Beams of green energy shot out from dozens of ships, all aimed at the Liberty's engines and weapon systems. The aliens wanted to capture the human ship intact, just like they had done to every other species, but Jake was ready. "Hard to starboard," he shouted. "Full evasive maneuvers." The Liberty suddenly twisted to the right, dodging most of the incoming fire. The few beams that hit struck the ship's strongest armor sections, causing damage but not disabling anything important. "Now, Danny, fire everything at the ships on our left." Danny Clark's fingers flew across his weapons console. Every cannon and missile launcher on the Liberty fired at once, all targeting the Zephyrian vessels on the port side of their formation. The aliens were completely unprepared for this. They had expected the human ship to fire at the vessels directly in front of it. Instead, the Liberty's weapons tore into ships that had their shields facing the wrong direction. Direct hits on 3 enemy vessels. Amy Brooks reported from her tactical station. "Sir, their bio-armor is regenerating. That's slower than I expected." "That's because Pete modified our weapons," Jake said with satisfaction. "What did you do?" "To our missiles, Chief?" Pete Sullivan grinned from his engineering post. "I loaded them with computer viruses, Captain. Human-designed programs that their biological systems can't understand. It's confusing their healing process." On the Zephyrian flagship, Admiral Kextar stared at his display in shock. 3 of his ships were showing damage, and their self-repair systems were working at only half speed. "How is this possible?" he demanded. "The human weapons should not be able to penetrate our adaptive shields." "Sir," his tactical officer replied, "their projectiles contain some kind of information warfare component. Our biocomputers are having trouble processing it." Kextar's 4 eyes blazed with anger. No species had ever used such tactics against the Armada. Information warfare was considered primitive and ineffective, yet somehow it was working. "All ships adjust formation. Surround the human vessel. We will crush them with overwhelming firepower." But as the Zephyrian ships began to move, the Liberty did something even more unexpected. Instead of trying to escape, it dove deeper into the alien formation. "Sir, what are you doing?" Lisa Garcia called out as the ship shook under enemy fire. "I'm betting that their ships are too big to fire on us when we're this close to their other vessels," Jake replied. "Sam, take us between those 2 cruisers." Navigator Sam Wright was the best pilot in the human fleet, and he proved it now. The Liberty twisted and spun through space, threading the needle between massive Zephyrian warships that were 10 times its size. The aliens found themselves in an impossible situation. Their own ships were so large and so close together that they couldn't fire at the human vessel without risking hitting each other. "This is madness," Kextar snarled. "No species fights like this. They have no formation, no discipline, no strategy." "Perhaps that is their strategy, sir," his tactical officer suggested. "Random movement and unpredictable attacks." Impossible. Randomness cannot defeat superior numbers and technology. But even as Kextar said this, he watched the Liberty tear through his formation like a wild animal. The human ship's weapons kept firing, targeting different vessels each time. Their missiles carried the strange computer viruses that slowed down Zephyrian healing systems. Worse, the Liberty was moving so erratically that his ships couldn't coordinate their attacks. The Zephyrian fleet was designed to work together, sharing information through their biolinks. But the human ship's chaotic movements made it impossible to predict where it would be next. "All ships break formation," Kextar ordered. "Spread out and engage the enemy individually." This was a mistake, though the Admiral didn't realize it yet. The Zephyrian Armada's greatest strength was its ability to work as a single massive organism. By breaking formation, Kextar was giving up his biggest advantage: On the Liberty, Jake saw the alien ships spreading out and smiled. Perfect. Amy, are you tracking their communication patterns? Yes, sir. When they were in formation, all there. Ships were sharing the same tactical information. But now that they're spread out, each ship is thinking for itself. And their reaction times are much slower. It's like the difference between one brain controlling 300 bodies and 300 separate brains trying to work together. Jake nodded. That's exactly what I was hoping for. Danny, target the ship directly ahead of us. Full power. The Liberty's main cannon fired, sending a massive burst of energy into a Zephyrian cruiser. The alien ship's shields held, but barely. There. Shields are adapting to our energy weapons, Danny reported. But the computer viruses in our missiles are still causing problems. Then we'll use both, Jake decided. Hit them with energy weapons first, and follow up with missiles while their computers are confused. This new tactic proved devastatingly effective. The Liberty would fire its lasers and particle beams at a Zephyrian ship, forcing its shields to adapt to energy weapons. Then, while the alien computers were busy adjusting their defenses, human missiles loaded with viruses would slip through and explode against the ship's hull. Pete Sullivan watched his engineering displays with amazement. Captain, I'm reading massive system failures on the enemy ships. Their biocomputers can't handle our viruses and their shield adaptations at the same time. It's like trying to solve two different math problems at once, Amy added. Their brains are getting overloaded. For the first time in the battle, Jake allowed himself to feel a moment of hope. The Zephyrian Armada was the most powerful fleet in galactic history, but they had one weakness. They had never faced an enemy that fought dirty. Every other species the aliens had conquered fought honorable battles. They used proper formations, standard tactics, and predictable strategies. They treated war like a science, but humans treated war like survival. They cheated, improvised, and broke every rule of civilized combat. And it was working. Sir, Lisa called out urgently. I'm intercepting alien communications. They're calling for reinforcements from their reserve fleet. Jake's moment of hope faded. How many ships? Another 100, sir. They'll be here in 20 minutes. Jake looked around his bridge. His crew had performed miracles, but they were still just one ship against hundreds of enemies. Even with their unconventional tactics, they couldn't fight the entire Zephyrian Empire. Well, he said quietly, we always knew this was a long shot. But we've bought the Centauri colonies some time, and we've shown these aliens that humans don't go down without a fight. Sir, Amy said, studying her sensors, I'm reading something strange about the alien ships we've damaged. What kind of strange? They're not just having trouble with their computers. Their crews seem to be ... panicking. Jake raised an eyebrow. Panicking? But they're winning. Not anymore, sir. Look at their formation. It's falling apart. Ships are moving away from us instead of attacking. I think they're afraid. Jake stared at the tactical display. Amy was right. The Zephyrian ships that had been damaged were retreating, even though they were still capable of fighting. And the undamaged ships seemed reluctant to get too close to the Liberty. For the first time in their history, the unstoppable Zephyrian Armada was experiencing something they had never felt before, fear of defeat. And that fear was about to become their greatest weakness. Admiral Kekstar felt something he had never experienced before. The biolinks connecting him to his fleet were filled with confusion and doubt. His ship commanders were sending him reports that made no sense. Sir, the humans are using impossible tactics, one captain reported. They attack from directions that should be suicide. They target random ships instead of focusing fire. Their weapons carry digital diseases that our computers cannot cure. Sir, my crew is becoming agitated. Another captain headed. The biorhythms of my ship are irregular. We have never faced defeat before. Our systems are not designed for this stress. Kextar tried to send calming thoughts through the biolink, but he was struggling with his own confusion. The Zephyrian Empire had conquered the galaxy using superior technology and overwhelming force. Every species they had faced fought logically, using proven military strategies. But humans fought like wild animals. They made decisions that seemed insane, took risks that should have been fatal, and somehow made it work. All ships maintain attack formation, Kextar commanded. We have lost only 12 vessels. They have lost none, but they are still just one ship. Mathematics is on our side. But even as he spoke, Kextar knew something was wrong. His fleet should have destroyed the human ship in the first 5 minutes of battle. Instead, the Liberty was still fighting, still moving, still causing damage. On the Liberty, the crew was fighting for their lives. The ship had taken heavy damage, and several systems were failing. But somehow, they were still alive. Hull breach on Deck 7, Pete Sullivan reported. Emergency force fields are holding, but we can't take much more punishment. Weapons at 60% power, Denny Clark added. We're running low on the special missiles with the computer viruses. Dr. Kate Johnson appeared on the bridge, her medical uniform stained with blood from treating wounded crew members. Captain, I need to report something strange. The crew members who are fighting are actually performing better than normal. Their stress responses are improving their reaction times and strength. Jake looked at her curiously. What do you mean? Humans evolved as persistence hunters, Dr. Johnson explained. When we're in danger, our bodies release chemicals that make us faster, stronger, and more focused. But I'm monitoring the alien biosignals we've intercepted, and their stress responses are doing the opposite. The more afraid they get, the slower their thinking becomes. This was valuable information. Jake realized that every minute the battle continued, his crew was getting more effective, while the Zephyrian crews were getting less effective. Amy, show me the current positions of all enemy ships. Jake ordered. The tactical display showed the Zephyrian fleet spread out across space. Many ships were hanging back, reluctant to get close to the Liberty. Others were moving in confused patterns, no longer part of a coordinated attack. Sir, Sam Wright called from the navigation station. I'm seeing something interesting. The alien ships that are furthest from us are moving back into formation, but the ones that have been in close combat with us are staying spread out. They're learning to be afraid, Jake realized. The ships that have fought us directly know how dangerous we are, but the ones that haven't fought us yet still think they can win. This gave Jake an idea, a dangerous, crazy idea that might just work. Lisa, open a channel to all Zephyrian ships. Sir? You heard me. I want to talk to all of them at once. Lisa's fingers worked over her console. Channel open, sir. Jake stood up and faced the main screen. He knew that hundreds of alien ships were watching him. I am Captain Jake Martinez of the USS Liberty. For 10 years, your fleet has conquered every species it has faced. You have never known defeat. But today, that changes. He paused, letting his words sink in. Look around you. One human ship has damaged 12 of your vessels. We have disrupted your formation and confused your tactics. And we are just getting started. On the Zephyrian flagship, Admiral Kextar watched the human captain with growing unease. The alien's words were having an effect on his fleet. The biolinks were buzzing with uncertainty. You think you are superior because you have better technology, Jake continued. But technology is not everything. Humans have something you don't. The willingness to fight even when we should lose. We don't surrender. We don't give up. And we don't stop until the job is done. The transmission ended, but the damage was done. Across the Zephyrian fleet, crews were talking about the humans' words. Many had never heard an enemy speak with such confidence, while being outnumbered 300 to 1. "Sir," Kekstar's tactical officer said quietly, "the fleet's coordination is becoming erratic. Some ships are requesting permission to retreat." "Retreat?" Kekstar's voice was filled with rage. "We do not retreat. We have never retreated." "Yes, sir, but the crews are saying that humans are different from other species. They are saying that perhaps we should study them before continuing the attack." Kekstar realized that his greatest weapon was being turned against him. The biolinks. That allowed perfect coordination also spread fear and doubt instantly through the entire fleet. If one ship's crew became afraid, that fear would infect other ships, and the Liberty was making sure there was plenty of fear to spread. The human ship suddenly accelerated toward a group of Zephyrian cruisers that were trying to reform their attack pattern. But instead of engaging them directly, the Liberty flew past them and launched a spread of virus-loaded missiles at a completely different target. The cruisers, expecting to be attacked, had prepared their defenses for nothing. Meanwhile, their intended target was caught completely off guard. "Impossible," Kekstar whispered. "They attacked the ships they were not approaching and ignored the ships they were approaching. This makes no military sense." "Perhaps that is the point, sir," his tactical officer suggested. "If their tactics make no sense, then we cannot predict them or defend against them." As if to prove this point, the Liberty suddenly changed direction again, diving toward the Zephyrian flagship itself. "Sir, the human ship is on a collision course with us," the tactical officer shouted. "All weapons fire. Destroy them before they reach us." But the Liberty was moving too fast and too unpredictably. Zephyrian weapons missed again and again as the human ship twisted through space like a leaf in a storm dot at the last second. The Liberty pulled up, flying over the flagships, hull so close that its shield sparked against the alien ship's armor. As it passed, it fired every weapon it had directly into the flagship's command section. The attack didn't destroy the flagship, but it sent a clear message to every ship in the fleet. Nowhere was safe from the humans. On the Liberty's bridge, alarms were ringing and sparks were flying from damaged consoles. The ship was barely holding together, but the crew was still fighting. "Sir," Amy reported, "long-range sensors are detecting the Zephyrian reinforcement fleet. 100 ships. Arriving in 5 minutes." Jake nodded grimly. "Then we have 5 minutes to finish this." He turned to his crew, these brave people who had followed him into an impossible battle. "We've come this far together. We've shown the galaxy that humans don't surrender. Now let's show them that we don't lose either." The reinforcement fleet was approaching fast, but Jake had one more card to play. One final desperate gamble that would either save the Centauri colonies or destroy the Liberty completely. Either way, the Zephyrian Armada would never forget the day they faced a human battleship. The Zephyrian reinforcement fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel like a swarm of angry insects. 100 fresh warships, their crews eager to crush the single human vessel that had dared to fight their empire. Admiral Kekstar felt relief flood through the biolink as the new ships took position around his battered fleet. Finally, he would have enough firepower to overwhelm the impossible human tactics. "Admiral Vexer Near," he transmitted to the reinforcement fleet commander, "prepare for immediate assault on the human vessel. Use maximum firepower. Do not attempt to capture them alive." "Understood," came the reply. "Our crews are eager to avenge the shame you have brought upon the Armada." The insult stung, but Kekstar ignored it. Soon, the human ship would be space dust, and his reputation would be restored. On the Liberty, Captain Jake Martinez watched the new alien ships surround his vessel. His bridge was filled with smoke from damaged systems, and half his crew was wounded, but they were still alive still fighting. "Well," he said quietly, "it's been an honor serving with all of you." "Sir," Technical Specialist Chris Taylor called from his station, "I've been analyzing the bioelectrical signals between the Zephyrian ships. I think I've found something." "What is it, Chris?" "Their biolinks work like a computer network, right? Well, I've been studying the virus programs we loaded into our missiles. I think I can modify them to spread through their entire communication system." Pete Sullivan looked up from his engineering console. "You mean like infecting their whole fleet with a computer virus?" "Exactly. But it would require us to get close. Enough to their flagship to upload the virus directly." Very close. Jake understood what Chris was suggesting. It was suicide. The Liberty would have to fly straight into the center of the Zephyrian fleet and make direct contact with their command ship. They would never survive long enough to escape. "How close?" Jake asked. "We would need to physically connect to their ship's hull. The virus needs a direct biolink connection to spread through their network." Amy Brooks looked up from her tactical station. "Sir, even if the virus works, we won't survive the upload. The entire fleet will focus fire on us the moment we make contact with the flagship." Jake nodded slowly. He had known this moment would come. One way or another, the Liberty was going to be destroyed in this battle. The only question was whether their sacrifice would mean something. "Chris, how long do you need to upload the virus?" 60 seconds of direct contact, sir." "And what will the virus do to their fleet?" "It should disrupt their biolinks completely. They'll lose the ability to coordinate as a group. Each ship will be on its own." Jake looked around his bridge one more time. These people had followed him into hell, and they deserved to know what he was asking of them. "Listen up, everyone. We have two choices. We can try to run and maybe buy the Centauri colonies a few more hours before the aliens destroy them. Or we can make one final attack that might save 2 million innocent people." He paused. "But if we choose to attack, none of us are going home. This is a one-way mission." The bridge fell silent. Then Amy spoke up. "Captain, my sister lives on Centauri Prime. She has 2 little girls. If we don't stop these aliens here, they'll kill everyone on that planet." Danny Clark nodded. "My parents are on Centauri Station. I joined the fleet to protect people like them." One by one, every crew member on the bridge voiced their agreement. They would make the attack, even knowing it meant their deaths. Jake felt pride swell in his chest. These were the finest people he had ever known. "All right then. Lisa, Patch, me through to the entire ship. Everyone deserves to hear this. Channel open, sir. This is the captain. In 60 seconds, we're going to fly straight into the center of the enemy fleet and ram their flagship. Our mission is to upload a computer virus that will disrupt their entire communication network. If we succeed, the Centauri colonies will be saved. If we fail, at least we'll go down fighting." He took a deep breath. "It has been my honor to serve with every one of you. Earth will remember what we did here today. The galaxy will remember that humans do not surrender." Across the ship, 800 crew members prepared for their final battle. In engineering, Pete Sullivan pushed the engines to beyond their safety limits. In the weapon bays, Danny Clark loaded the last of their special missiles. Throughout the ship, people said goodbye to each other and prepared to die. "Sam," Jake said to his navigator, "take us in, full speed, straight at the flagship." The Liberty turned toward the Zephyrian command ship and accelerated. Behind them, the stars of the Centauri system shone like beacons of hope. Admiral Kextar watched in disbelief as the human ship flew directly toward his flagship. "They cannot be serious," he said. "This is suicide." "Sir, the human vessel is accelerating beyond safe speeds," his tactical officer reported. "I believe they intend to ram us. All ships, Destroy that vessel immediately. Hundreds of alien weapons fired at once. Green energy beams and biomechanical missiles filled space around the Liberty. The human ship's shields failed within seconds, and its armor began to melt under the intense bombardment. But the Liberty kept coming. Impossible, Kextar whispered. Their ship should be dead. How are they still moving? On the Liberty, the bridge was an inferno of sparks and flame. Half the crew was unconscious or worse. But Jake was still in his captain's chair, and the ship was still flying. Hull breach on every deck, Pete reported through gritted teeth. Life support failing. Engines at 200% power and climbing. 30 seconds to impact, Sam called out, blood running down his face from a head wound. Virus ready to upload, Chris added, his hands flying over his console, even as it sparked and smoked around him. The Liberty crashed through the outer ring of Zephyrian ships, its hull glowing white-hot from weapons fire. Alien vessels scattered out of its path, unable to believe that anything could survive such punishment. 10 seconds to impact, Sam announced. Jake gripped his chair and watched the Zephyrian flagship grow larger on the screen. In a few moments, it would all be over. It's been an honor, he said quietly. The Liberty slammed into the side of the alien flagship with the force of a meteor. The human ship's reinforced bow punched through the biomechanical hull and lodged deep inside the alien vessel. For a moment, there was silence. Then Chris Taylor, barely conscious and covered in blood, managed to hit the upload button. The computer. Virus raced through the biolinks connecting every ship in the Zephyrian fleet. In seconds, it reached hundreds of vessels, disrupting their communication networks and overloading their biological computers. Across the fleet, alien ships began to drift aimlessly as their crews lost contact with each other. The perfect coordination that had made the Armada unstoppable was gone, replaced by confusion and panic. Admiral Kextar felt the biolink go dead, cutting him off from his fleet for the first time in his life. Emergency lights flashed in his command center as his ship systems began to fail. Status report, he demanded. Sir, all biolinks are down. A human virus has infected our entire communication network. We cannot coordinate with other ships. Kextar stared at the wreckage of the Liberty embedded in his ship's hull. The human vessel was dead, its crew certainly killed in the impact. But they had accomplished their mission. For the first time in galactic history, the Zephyrian Armada was defeated. Sir, his tactical officer said quietly, what are your orders? Kextar looked around his damaged command center. Without the biolinks, his fleet was just a collection of individual ships. They could still fight, but they could no longer work together. And if the humans had more ships coming, signal the retreat, he said finally. We withdraw from this system immediately. Sir, the Empire will not accept retreat. The Empire has never faced humans before, Kextar replied. Tell them that this species is different. Tell them that humans do not fight like other races. They do not surrender, they do not retreat, and they do not fear death. As the Zephyrian fleet limped away from the Centauri system, word spread quickly through the galaxy. The unstoppable Armada had been stopped. The invincible fleet had been defeated, and it had been done by a single human battleship and 800 people who refused to give up. On Centauri Prime, Governor Helen Davis stood in her office and watched the alien ships disappear into faster-than-light travel. Tears ran down her face as she thought about the brave crew of the Liberty who had saved her world. Across human space, the story spread like wildfire. The sacrifice of Captain Jake Martinez and his crew became legend. Children would learn their names in school. Their courage would inspire a dozen new songs and 100 new stories. But most importantly, the galaxy learned that humans were not like other species. They were not conquerors or empire builders. But if you threatened their homes, their families, or their friends, they would fight you with everything they had. The Zephyrian Empire never attacked human space again. Other alien races began to seek alliances with Earth instead of trying to dominate it. And at the edge of the Centauri system, a memorial was built around the wreckage of the USS Liberty. The inscription read simply, "They stood when others would have fallen. They fought when others would have surrendered. They died so that others might live. This is what it means to be human." The galaxy would never forget the day a single battleship proved that sometimes the size of yore